15. Famous actors who died during surgery. Medical tragedies of Hollywood. They were icons who cheated death on screen, fearless heroes, beloved comedians, and Hollywood royalty. But when the cameras stopped rolling, their final battle wasn't against villains or monsters. It was against the surgeon's knife. From routine procedures gone horribly wrong to medical decisions made in desperation, these 15 famous actors entered the operating room seeking hope and never came out alive. Their tragic endings remain some of Hollywood's most haunting medical mysteries. Before we reveal the heartbreaking last moments of these legends, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what truly happened behind those hospital doors. Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball, the unstoppable force behind I Love. Lucy entered Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in April 1989 with determination in her eyes, still believing that comedy's greatest queen had more years of laughter to give. At 77 years old, she faced a high-risk operation to repair a life-threatening aortic aneurysm and replace a damaged aortic valve. The medical team celebrated when the long procedure ended smoothly. Newspapers even printed updates of hope. After decades of working under relentless pressure, Ball finally seemed ready to slow down and embrace recovery. Cameras had adored her studios, had depended on her, and millions of fans around the world assumed Hollywood's funniest woman would defy the odds one more time. But inside, her chest danger was quietly building. Only 8 days after the major cardiac surgery, Lucille woke up with sudden chest pain. Alarms echoed through the cardiac unit as she was rushed back into emergency care. Her newly repaired artery had burst without warning, a rare but deadly complication in elderly patients. Doctors fought for her life as machines tracked every weakening heartbeat. This was not a soundstage with retakes or props. This was the cruel silence of real medical crisis. At 4:47 a.m. on April 26, 1989, the line on the monitor went flat, and the woman who made America laugh until it cried was gone forever. The shock that followed was instant and national. Television networks interrupted their regular programming. Crowds gathered outside the hospital holding flowers, photographs, and handwritten notes. Fans struggled to accept a world without Lucy's mischievous grin or brilliantly timed chaos. For decades, her sitcom had dominated ratings, earning 4 Primetime Emmy Awards and reshaping television storytelling through the pioneering Desilu Productions, the company she co-founded that later produced Star Trek and Mission Impossible. Her influence on comedy and entertainment was revolutionary, but her body had always carried the heavy stress of a tireless career. Lucille Ball's final moments reminded the world that even icons are fragile under surgical lights. Her death became a teachable moment in cardiology, sparking new awareness about the risks of aortic aneurysms in older adults. Yet while the medical tragedy ended her life, it could not dim the brilliance of her legacy. Every rerun, every joyful laugh from audiences discovering her for the first time keeps her heart beating in a different way, proving that legends never truly die. For Lucille Ball, the curtain closed in a hospital room, but the spotlight shines eternally. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen, forever branded the King of Cool, was the kind of actor who outran explosions, escaped impossible traps, and stared death in the face without blinking. But in 1980, death stopped being a cinematic prop. McQueen was diagnosed with malignant pleural mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer linked directly to asbestos exposure, something he encountered for years while working on film sets, riding motorcycles, and repairing racing cars. American specialists told him the truth. He refused to hear surgery could not save him. The cancer had spread into the lining of his lungs and abdomen, and the tumors were growing faster than medicine could catch. For a rebel who lived by his own rules, accepting the word incurable felt like a personal defeat. So McQueen searched for hope across borders. He traveled to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, seeking experimental therapies unavailable in the United States. He underwent unconventional cancer treatments from enzyme-based therapies to laetrile injections, clinging to the belief that somewhere beyond Hollywood, a lifeline still existed. Surgeons there agreed to attempt a high-risk operation to remove multiple tumors, some reportedly weighing over 5 pounds combined. On November 6, 1980, he entered the operating room not as a superstar, but as a man desperately trying to bargain for more time. He survived the surgery itself, but the anesthesia and trauma pushed his heart beyond its limit. In the early hours of November 7, 1980, 3:45 a.m., Steve McQueen's pulse faded and never returned. There was no roaring engine, no spotlight, no orchestrated final monologue. The man who once leapt across barbed wire fences in The Great Escape took his last breath in a small clinic room miles away from the studios that made him a legend. When news reached the United States, headlines described it as one of Hollywood's greatest heartbreaks. Fans couldn't fathom that the fearless anti-hero of Bullitt and the Magnificent Seven had lost a real-life battle that no stunt could solve. His death changed more than Hollywood gossip columns. McQueen's case became one of the most public warnings about asbestos exposure that countless workers, veterans, mechanics, and performers had suffered unknowingly. It also sparked debates about alternative medicine, patient autonomy, and the desperate risks people take when modern science offers no cure. Yet even in loss, McQueen's legacy refused to slow down. His defiance, his appetite for freedom, and his belief in fighting until the very last moment ensured that the King of Cool didn't simply vanish. He raced full speed into immortality. Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton was the kind of actor audiences rooted for instantly. The charming everyman who stood tall against tornadoes, vampires, and even an alien queen. But the greatest threat he ever faced wasn't a creature on screen. It was the silent damage inside his chest that had followed him for years. Beginning in his childhood, Paxton lived with rheumatic fever, a condition that can permanently weaken the heart. By his early 60s, doctors determined that an aortic aneurysm and a faulty heart valve put him at severe risk of sudden death. Knowing surgery was the only path forward, he remained optimistic, telling friends he wanted to fix his heart so he could keep acting and raise his 2 children with the same energy fans adored. On February 14, 2017, Paxton entered Cedars-Sinai Medical Center for a complex operation that involved both aortic valve replacement and repair of the bulging aneurysm. The procedure initially appeared successful. His family was relieved, hospital staff were encouraged, and Paxton himself was hopeful as he began recovery. But within days, complications emerged, and small blood clots began to form. In a tragic twist, one traveled to his brain, causing a post-operative stroke that left his body fighting for survival. Doctors rushed to intervene, but the damage was severe and irreversible. At 61 years old, just 11 days after surgery, Bill Paxton passed away on February 25, 2017. His death shook Hollywood because it felt so unthinkably unfair. Paxton wasn't done, fans knew it, colleagues knew it, and he himself knew it. He had directed, starred, and supported some of the most iconic films of the last 4 decades: Aliens, Titanic, Twister, Apollo 13. His co-workers described him as the heart of every set, the guy who remembered birthdays, lifted spirits, and made long nights feel like storytelling among friends. James Cameron called him a man you could trust with your life, a rare compliment in an industry built on illusion. In the months following his passing, Paxton's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit arguing that surgical errors and delayed intervention cost him his life. Though the final settlement remained confidential, the case fueled a national conversation about the hidden dangers of even successful heart procedures. Today, Bill Paxton's legacy survives not only in the movies that replay across generations, but also in the cautionary reminders within the medical world that even heroes built of grit and courage are vulnerable once fate and physiology collide. His final fight happened far away from the storm-chasing thrill of Twister, but his spirit remains an unstoppable force. John Ritter. John Ritter was the kind of performer who brought warmth into every living room in America. From his breakout role as Jack Tripper in Three's Company, to his heartfelt portrayal of a TV dad in 8 Simple Rules, he embodied joy, vulnerability, and lovable chaos. But behind that brilliant humor, Ritter carried a danger no one could see. On the evening of September 11, 2003, while rehearsing on the Burbank set of his sitcom, he suddenly collapsed. At first, the symptoms, chest pain, sweating, nausea, led everyone to believe he was experiencing a heart attack, a medical emergency, but one with clear steps toward survival. His castmates and crew watched in fear as paramedics rushed him across the street to Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, confident he would soon be back on set cracking jokes again. Inside the emergency room, the situation shifted into chaos. Doctors moved quickly, administering tests and preparing Ritter for emergency heart surgery. But time was slipping away faster than anyone realized. He wasn't having a heart attack at all. Ritter was suffering from an aortic dissection, a rare and deadly condition where a tear in the aorta causes internal bleeding at a catastrophic rate. The misdiagnosis cost precious minutes, and even once surgeons opened his chest, the damage was too severe. His heart stopped during the operation. At 10:48 p.m., Ritter, just 54 years old, was pronounced dead, leaving behind a stunned medical team and a world that wasn't ready to let him go. News of his passing spread overnight, and fans woke up to heartbreak. The man who had made millions laugh with nothing more than a look or a stumble was suddenly gone. His wife, actress Amy Yazbek, later revealed how surreal it felt hours earlier he was rehearsing lines, dancing around the set, and planning dinner. Now she had to explain to their children that their father's final scene had already played out. Co-stars spoke through tears about his generosity and his instinct to make everyone feel included. He wasn't just funny. He was gentle, thoughtful, and endlessly kind. In the aftermath, Yazbek filed legal action not out of anger, but to raise awareness so others might survive such emergencies. Her advocacy contributed to improved recognition of aortic dissections in hospitals nationwide. Ritter's sudden death became a medical turning point, proof that even a vibrant life can vanish in moments when the body gives no warning. Yet his legacy continues to beat strongly in reruns, laughter, and the reminder that joy is precious because it never lasts long enough. John Ritter left too soon, but he left the world smiling. Rodney Dangerfield. Rodney Dangerfield spent his entire career turning insecurity into punchlines. With his unforgettable motto, "I don't get no respect," he transformed everyday frustration into comedic gold and became one of the most quoted funny men in America. But behind that booming laughter, Dangerfield battled chronic heart problems for decades. By his early 80s, doctors warned that his aortic valve had deteriorated so severely that survival without surgery was unlikely. Still, he joked with reporters before heading into the operating room at UCLA Medical Center in August 2004, saying the surgeon told him he had a 1 in 100 chance, the best odds I've ever had, even facing death. Rodney's greatest weapon was humor. The surgery itself, a heart valve replacement, was a success at first. Dangerfield even appeared upbeat, cracking jokes with nurses and requesting applause from visitors. But the battle wasn't over. His aging body struggled to heal from such an intense procedure. Over the following weeks, complications set in, including a dangerous post-operative infection and respiratory issues that steadily weakened his heart. Despite aggressive medical care, his condition continued to decline. On October 5, 2004, at 82 years old, Rodney Dangerfield passed away quietly with his devoted wife Joan by his side. No spotlight, no roaring audience, just a peaceful goodbye. The news hit Hollywood like the sudden silence after a perfectly timed punchline. Late-night hosts replayed his most iconic sets on The Tonight Show, remembering the performer who restarted his career in his 40s after years of working odd jobs. Dangerfield had changed the course of comedy by proving that vulnerability could be the funniest and most human thing on stage. He helped launch the careers of rising comedians, influenced film through roles in Caddyshack and Back to School, and even won a Grammy for his stand-up album, No Respect. Rodney's passing also highlighted the high-risk nature of major heart surgeries in elderly patients. While medical advancement can buy time, the process of recovery can be as dangerous as the operation itself. Yet Dangerfield's legacy remains anything but tragic. Fans still laugh at his self-deprecating wit, keeping his spirit alive through every joke delivered with a tug on his tie and a shake of the head. He may have left this world quietly, but the laughter he created still echoes loudly, earning him the ultimate respect he always claimed he never got. Tony Randall. Tony Randall built an extraordinary career out of intelligence, precision, and impeccable comedic timing. Best known as the obsessively neat Felix Unger in The Odd Couple, he turned fastidious charm into one of television's most beloved characters, earning 6 Emmy nominations and a win in 1975. Beyond sitcom fame, Randall was a powerhouse on Broadway, a lifelong advocate for classical theater and a familiar face on talk shows where his sharp wit often outsmarted the host. Even as he entered his 80s, Randall continued performing attending premieres and supporting arts education with tireless passion. But years of heart strain quietly threatened his stamina, and doctors warned him that surgery was necessary to restore proper blood flow and circulation. In December 2003, Tony underwent coronary bypass surgery at New York University Medical Center, a demanding procedure even under the best circumstances. Initially, the operation seemed promising, and those close to him believed he was on the road back to the stage. However, the recovery process brought an unexpected danger: pneumonia, a common but highly lethal complication for older cardiac patients. As the infection spread, it put enormous stress on his already burdened heart. Randall fought with the same determination that had driven him through decades of Hollywood and Broadway. But this battle was not one he could script or rehearse. On May 17, 2004, at the age of 84, he died peacefully with family nearby. The news saddened both theater and television communities. Colleagues remembered his dedication to craft, his generosity toward young actors, and his fierce belief that the performing arts were essential to society. In 1991, he founded the National Actors Theater, bringing affordable, high-quality Shakespeare productions to New York audiences who might never have experienced live classical drama otherwise. He often funded productions himself, proving his love for storytelling went far deeper than celebrity. His death served as a sobering reminder that even successful surgeries can carry risks far beyond the operating table. But Tony Randall's legacy didn't fade with the closing curtain on his final act. His humor, elegance, and intellect continue to shine in every rerun, every stage revival inspired by his mission, and every performer he encouraged. Though pneumonia claimed his final breaths, the world still hears his voice, crisp, witty, and wonderfully alive, reminding us that true artistry never grows old and the spotlight never truly dims on a life performed with purpose. Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers spent more than 5 decades proving that comedy could be sharp enough to cut through Hollywood's toughest walls. Fearless, loud, unapologetically honest, she shattered barriers for women in stand-up, turning taboo topics into punchlines and critics into believers. Even in her 80s, she refused to slow down. On the night of August 27, 2014, she performed a high-energy show in Manhattan, joking about aging fame and her own countless cosmetic surgeries. Less than 12 hours later, she entered Yorkville Endoscopy Clinic for what was described as a minor throat procedure, an upper endoscopy and laryngoscopy to examine her vocal cords. It was supposed to be routine, quick, safe, a small tune-up for a woman whose voice still powered sold-out crowds. But routine turned to horror in seconds. During the procedure, Joan's oxygen levels began to drop, a red flag emergency, yet staff failed to respond in time. Her heart stopped suddenly, and she went into cardiac and respiratory arrest. Paramedics rushed her to Mount Sinai Hospital, where doctors fought to revive her. They succeeded, but the damage was devastating. Joan had suffered severe anoxic brain injury due to the lack of oxygen. Placed on life support, she never regained consciousness. For 7 days, her daughter Melissa remained at her side, holding her hand, praying that the same fire that made Joan unstoppable on stage would spark again. On September 4, 2014, Joan Rivers died at 81 years old, leaving the entertainment world in stunned disbelief. Just hours after her passing, her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was covered in flowers, lipsticks, and handwritten thank you notes. Manhattan, the city she conquered, filled with tributes that mixed tears and laughter just as she would have wanted. Fans remembered the biting wit that earned her a Grammy, a Daytime Emmy, numerous best-selling books, and a red carpet empire that changed celebrity culture forever. Her death triggered national outrage and major investigations. Reports confirmed multiple safety violations, improper monitoring, unauthorized procedures, and unqualified personnel in the operating room. It became one of the most public wake-up calls in outpatient surgical history, a reminder that even the simplest medical procedure can turn fatal when vigilance slips. Yet Joan Rivers' story doesn't end with tragedy. Her courage, resilience, and hilarious honesty continue to inspire comedians, especially women who once struggled for a microphone. The stage lights dimmed that September morning, but the echoes of her punchlines still roar, refusing to ever be silenced. James Avery. James Avery was more than a commanding presence on screen. He was an anchor of wisdom, discipline, and love for an entire generation. Born in 1945, he served in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War before pursuing acting, developing the deep, resonant voice and powerful stage presence that defined his career. Though he performed Shakespeare-voiced iconic animated characters like Shredder in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and appeared in dozens of films and TV shows, his place in pop culture history was sealed the moment he stepped into the role of Uncle Phil on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Stern yet compassionate, Avery shaped not only the character of Philip Banks, but also the real-life young actors around him with guidance, patience, and respect. In late 2013, Avery underwent open-heart surgery at Glendale Adventist Medical Center to fix long-standing cardiac issues that had quietly followed him for years. Initially, the procedure appeared successful. The surgical team was optimistic, and Avery was expected to make a full recovery. But surgical trauma is often unpredictable, especially for someone in their late 60s. Soon after the operation, he developed a dangerous post-operative infection, a complication that placed unbearable stress on his heart and vital organs. Despite intensive care and the best efforts of his doctors, the infection progressed rapidly. On December 31, 2013, at 68 years old, James Avery passed away, holding the hand of his devoted wife Barbara as the final moments of the year slipped away. The news spread across social media instantly, and fans who had grown up watching The Fresh Prince experienced a collective heartbreak. Will Smith wrote that the world had lost a second father, and the cast reunited privately to remember the man who had shaped them on and off camera. Clips of his most emotional scenes resurfaced, especially the unforgettable moment when Uncle Phil embraces Will after the episode about his father, a scene fueled by Avery's deep understanding of pain, family, and hope. His death became a stark reminder that even routine classified cardiac surgeries carry life-altering risks. But James Avery's legacy didn't end on that operating table. His message about dignity, accountability, and the power of family continues to resonate in reruns, classrooms, and homes everywhere. The man who helped a sitcom become a symbol of love and Black excellence may be gone, but the strength he gave the world remains forever. Heather O'Rourke. Heather O'Rourke was only a child when she became one of the most recognizable faces in horror film history. Born in 1975, she was discovered by Steven Spielberg himself while visiting the MGM lot with her mother. After a quick audition, she landed the unforgettable role of Carol Ann Freeling in Poltergeist 1982. With her wide eyes, platinum blonde hair, and that eerie line, "They're here," Heather captivated moviegoers instantly. Despite her young age, she handled fame with maturity and professionalism, returning for Poltergeist 2, 1986, and filming Poltergeist 3, 1987, even while battling persistent health issues that doctors initially diagnosed as Crohn's disease. But the diagnosis was tragically wrong. Throughout late 1987 and early 1988, Heather's symptoms worsened dramatically. She experienced swelling, constant fatigue, vomiting, and severe abdominal pain signs that something far more dangerous was happening inside her small body. On February 1, 1988, she woke up extremely ill. Her stomach painfully distended, her complexion pale and gray. Her mother, terrified, called for help. During the rushed ambulance drive to San Diego Children's Hospital, Heather went into cardiac arrest. Paramedics briefly revived her, but the clock was already ticking toward disaster. Surgeons discovered that Heather did not have Crohn's disease at all. Instead, she suffered from a congenital intestinal obstruction, a rare defect that had gone unnoticed since birth. The intestine had suddenly ruptured, flooding her body with deadly infection. Doctors immediately performed emergency surgery to repair the tear and remove the infectious damage. They worked for hours, pushing their skills to the limit. But Heather's heart, weakened by shock and sepsis, failed once more. This time, they could not bring her back. She was pronounced dead that same afternoon, just 12 years old, a rising star whose life ended before it truly began. Her sudden passing left Hollywood stunned. Fans and filmmakers alike mourned the young actress who brought both innocence and bravery to the screen. The tragedy intensified rumors of a so-called poltergeist curse, but the real explanation was far more painful: a misdiagnosis and a silent medical condition striking too late. Heather's death led to better pediatric screening awareness for abdominal disorders in children with chronic symptoms. Her legacy endures not only in the haunting films she helped define, but also in the lesson her story taught medicine: that young stars, no matter how bright, are just as vulnerable as anyone to the hidden dangers within the human body. Jeff Chandler. Jeff Chandler rose to fame as one of the 1950s most charismatic leading men, a tall, silver-haired star with a deep, distinctive voice that made him unforgettable on screen. Born in Brooklyn in 1918, he served in World War II before breaking into Hollywood and quickly becoming a top name at Universal Pictures. His performance as Cochise in Broken Arrow 1950 earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, turning him into a symbol of strength and stoic masculinity. Off-camera, Chandler was known for his professionalism and warm personality, beloved by co-stars who admired his dedication to his craft. But behind his heroic roles, he endured years of chronic back pain that gradually intensified, likely aggravated by physical stunts and demanding action scenes throughout his career. By early 1961, Chandler's condition had become unbearable. Doctors diagnosed a herniated disc that required surgical intervention. Confident in a quick recovery, he agreed to undergo a routine spinal operation at a hospital in Culver City, California. But routine became nightmare. During the procedure, surgeons accidentally severed a major artery, an error neither spotted nor repaired in time. Internal bleeding filled his abdomen, triggering a medical crisis that spiraled rapidly. He was rushed into 2 more emergency surgeries over the next 48 hours in a desperate attempt to save his life. "He's strong, he'll recover," friends reassured one another in the waiting room. But strength alone couldn't overcome the medical catastrophe that had begun the moment the artery was cut. On June 17, 1961, at just 42 years old, Jeff Chandler died from the extensive internal hemorrhaging. Hollywood reeled in shock. Only months earlier, he had starred in Merrill's Marauders and seemed to be entering a powerful new chapter of his career. His sudden death fueled intense discussions about surgical negligence, at a time when medical oversight lacked the modern safeguards we now consider essential. Newspapers demanded accountability, fans sought answers, and fellow actors mourned a colleague whose life had been cut short not by fate, but by preventable error. His funeral drew crowds of Hollywood elite, many of whom remembered Chandler not for his celebrity status, but for his kindness and quiet dignity, qualities rare in an industry built on ego. Though his career ended abruptly, his influence endured. His case later became an example in medical training programs, a reminder that even the smallest mistake can carry irreversible consequences. Today, Jeff Chandler's performances still echo with courage and command, a legacy untouched by the tragedy that claimed him far too soon. Jeanette MacDonald. Jeanette MacDonald was one of Hollywood's most beloved sopranos, a dazzling star of the golden age whose voice brought romance and elegance to film at a time when America desperately needed both. Born in 1903, she rose from Broadway performer to worldwide icon through her unforgettable musical duets with Nelson Eddy in classics such as Rosemary, 1936, and Maytime, 1937. Their harmonious chemistry made them cinema's most adored operatic pair, and MacDonald became renowned for her discipline, grace, and unwavering perfectionism. Even as musical tastes shifted in the post-war years, she continued performing in concerts and television appearances, determined to honor the art that had defined her life. But behind the glamour, her heart was quietly weakening. Throughout the early 1960s, MacDonald suffered from a chronic heart condition likely worsened by the intense physical demands of stage performance. She endured frequent chest pain and fatigue but refused to retire. She still felt responsible to her audience. When the symptoms intensified in January 1965, her husband, actor Gene Raymond, rushed her to Houston Methodist Hospital, where one of the leading cardiac surgeons of the time recommended immediate intervention. The diagnosis: her mitral valve was failing, blocking proper blood flow through the heart. Surgery was the only option left to give her a chance at survival. The operation began late on the evening of January 14, 1965. A complex and high-risk procedure at a time when open-heart surgery was still in its relative infancy. Surgeons worked for hours repairing the valve, carefully stitching each vessel in hopes of restoring her strength. Despite their expertise, Jeanette's heart had already endured years of silent struggle. Just before the final sutures were placed, her heart suddenly stopped. Doctors attempted resuscitation, but the damage was irreversible. She was pronounced dead shortly before dawn, only 61 years old and still adored around the world. Her passing marked the end of a cinematic era. Fans mourned a star whose poise and voice had helped define early Hollywood romance. Tributes poured in from international opera communities and former co-stars who praised her unmatched artistry and determination. Medical experts later emphasized her case as an example of the enormous risk of heart surgery during the 1960s, a time when life-saving techniques were still evolving. Jeanette MacDonald left the stage far too soon, but her crystalline voice lives on in films and recordings that continue to remind the world that beauty once shared never truly fades. Eddie Fisher. Eddie Fisher was once one of America's most adored vocalists. A polished crooner whose flawless tenor voice filled radios and television screens throughout the 1950s. Born in 1928 to immigrant parents, he rose from humble beginnings to become a national sensation, with chart-topping hits like "Oh My Papa, I Need You Now" and "Wish You Were Here." His wholesome image and remarkable vocal talent earned him his own network variety shows and even film roles. But as much as audiences loved his music, the headlines soon became dominated by his high-profile marriages to Debbie Reynolds and later Elizabeth Taylor, a scandal that forever changed the public's perception of Hollywood relationships. Through it all, Fisher continued performing, reminding fans that no controversy could silence his gift. By 2010, age had taken its toll. Fisher suffered a serious hip fracture after falling at his home in Berkeley, California, a dangerous injury for someone in their 80s. He was admitted to UCLA Medical Center, where surgeons prepared to repair the break with a standard orthopedic procedure. Hip surgery is common among elderly patients, but it is far from simple. Fragile blood vessels weakened by years of health challenges can react unpredictably to anesthesia and surgical stress. Despite these risks, Fisher entered the operating room hopeful, surrounded by medical experts who believed he would soon be up and moving again. The operation appeared to go smoothly until complications struck without warning. Hours after the procedure, Fisher developed severe internal bleeding, a condition known as post-operative hemorrhage. His blood pressure dropped sharply while doctors performed emergency interventions to stabilize him. The hidden blood loss proved too extensive and too fast to counter. On September 22, 2010, Eddie Fisher died at 82 years old, leaving behind a career rich with music memories and dramatic twists worthy of a Hollywood script. News of his death sparked a wave of nostalgia across multiple generations. Younger fans knew him primarily as the father of beloved actress and author Carrie Fisher, while older fans remembered the golden days of soft-voiced ballads and glamorous television specials. Medical experts later explained that his pre-existing cardiovascular issues made recovery from surgery nearly impossible, even under excellent care. Eddie Fisher's life was marked by high notes and heartbreaks, but his voice remains a timeless treasure. Through every record still spinning and every melody that floats through vintage playlists, he proves that legends can fade from sight, but never from sound. Farrah Fawcett. Farrah Fawcett was more than a Hollywood star. She was a symbol of an entire era. With her famous feathered hairstyle, athletic glamour, and radiant smile, she became a global icon overnight when Charlie's Angels premiered in 1976. Her red swimsuit poster sold over 12 million copies, making it one of the most recognizable images of the 20th century. But Farrah wanted more than beauty status. She pushed for serious acting roles, earning Emmy and Golden Globe nominations for fearless performances in The Burning Bed and Extremities. Her determination to be taken seriously by an industry that wanted to box her in proved she was far stronger than the glossy persona she portrayed. That strength would soon be tested beyond imagination. In 2006, Farrah was diagnosed with anal cancer, a disease often hidden behind stigma and silence. She approached it the way she approached her career head-on, refusing pity, demanding solutions. Standard treatments brought little progress, so she traveled to Germany multiple times for advanced experimental surgeries designed to remove recurring tumors. Each procedure brought brief relief, but also weakened her immune defenses. Still, she documented her battle in the raw and emotional NBC documentary, Farrah's Story, hoping that by sharing her journey, she could help others confront illness with honesty and courage. By the spring of 2009, the cancer had spread aggressively and complications mounted. In her final weeks, doctors performed another surgical intervention in an attempt to control internal bleeding. Her longtime partner actor Ryan O'Neal remained by her side, holding her hand through every rise and fall. On June 25, 2009, at 62 years old, Farrah Fawcett passed away at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, the same day the world would later learn of Michael Jackson's death, overshadowing her story in global headlines. But those who knew her understood that she had waged one of Hollywood's bravest fights, refusing to vanish quietly. Farrah's death led to increased awareness and research for HPV-related cancers and encouraged women to seek early screenings. Her impact reaches far beyond the image of the sun-kissed angel who stole the 1970s. She proved that vulnerability does not erase strength, it defines it. Through iconic roles, personal bravery, and a determination to control her own narrative, Farrah Fawcett ensured that she would be remembered not just for her beauty, but for her extraordinary resilience. Her spotlight dimmed in that hospital room, but her legacy continues to shine, bold, fearless, and forever unforgettable. Richard Harris. Richard Harris was the definition of a larger-than-life actor, bold, fiery, and unapologetically unpredictable, both on and off screen. Born in Limerick, Ireland in 1930, he rose from local theater to global acclaim through roles that demanded both strength and vulnerability. His early career flourished with films such as This Sporting Life 1963, earning him an Academy Award nomination and a spot among cinema's most compelling performers. Audiences were drawn to his raw emotional power, whether he was playing a rebellious warrior in Camelot or a rugged leader in A Man Called Horse. Later generations would know him as Albus Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter films, a role he accepted only after his granddaughter insisted he couldn't disappoint young fans. Behind his commanding screen presence, Harris fought a private and grueling battle against Hodgkin's lymphoma, a cancer of the lymphatic system. By mid-2002, complications from the disease had led to severe chest infections and respiratory strain. Determined to keep working, he continued to promote films and maintain his trademark wit, insisting that rumors of his retirement were ridiculous. But in August 2002, his health abruptly declined, and he was admitted to University College Hospital in London for intensive treatment and eventually surgery to relieve the pressure caused by the spreading illness. The operation offered a chance at stability, but aging organs and a weakened immune system made recovery almost impossible. Harris slipped in and out of consciousness as doctors fought to control the infection overwhelming his lungs. Family members, including his son's actors, Jared and Jamie Harris, stayed close, knowing that his legendary resilience was being tested like never before. On October 25, 2002, at 72 years old, Richard Harris passed away peacefully just weeks before the global premiere of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. News of his death spread instantly, and tributes poured in from every corner of the entertainment world. Directors praised his daring choices, actors remembered his mentorship, and fans mourned the wizard who brought warmth and gravitas to Hogwarts. His funeral at St. Mary's Church in London drew a powerful lineup of admirers who celebrated not only his artistry, but his rebellious spirit, the man who once said he wanted to leave life the way he lived it loudly. Though surgery and illness closed the final chapter of Richard Harris's life, his performances continue to echo with passion, poetry, and unbreakable Irish pride. Through every role he left behind, his magic remains immortal. Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve will forever be remembered as the man who made audiences believe a human being could truly fly. Born in 1952, he became an international sensation when he first donned Superman's cape in 1978, redefining the superhero genre with humble charm and soaring heroism. Off-screen, Reeve was thoughtful, classically trained, and deeply devoted to theater. He earned critical acclaim in films like The Remains of the Day and Somewhere in Time, proving he was far more than a comic book icon. But the courage he showed on screen would soon be tested in the most unimaginable way, a real-life battle that turned a Hollywood star into a global symbol of resilience. On May 27, 1995, Reeve was thrown from a horse during an equestrian competition, shattering his first and second cervical vertebrae and leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. Doctors gave him little chance of survival, yet he refused to disappear into tragedy. Instead, he transformed his suffering into purpose. With wife Dana as his unwavering support, he became the world's leading advocate for spinal cord injury research, pushing advancements in stem cell science and rehabilitation. He returned to directing, acting, public speaking, and even breathing independently for short periods through rigorous therapy, redefining heroism not as strength, but persistence. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, Reeve underwent numerous surgeries to treat life-threatening complications of paralysis, including infections, pressure sores, and respiratory difficulties. In October 2004, a dangerous pressure wound required another surgical procedure intended to prevent further infection. The operation itself seemed routine for someone who had endured so many, but the toll on his weakened immune system was severe. Soon after the surgery, he developed a severe systemic infection that led to sepsis and cardiac arrest. His medical team fought desperately, but Reeve's heart, which had powered nearly a decade of survival against the odds, finally stopped. On October 10, 2004, at just 52 years old, Christopher Reeve died with Dana holding his hand. Tributes poured in from world leaders, scientists, and millions of fans who saw in him not just Superman, but the very definition of real-world bravery. His advocacy accelerated research breakthroughs and reshaped public support for disability rights, leaving a medical and humanitarian legacy still felt today. Christopher Reeve's final moments took place not in a fortress of solitude, but in a hospital room. Yet his spirit continues to soar far above the earth. Even without flight, he showed us how high a hero can rise. In the end, these 15 stories reveal a chilling truth. Even Hollywood's greatest icons, those who entertained millions and seemed invincible on screen, can lose everything in a single moment under surgical lights. Some trusted risky procedures for one last chance. Others were failed by medical errors or hidden complications. So we're left with a haunting question when the body breaks down: is courage in choosing surgery or refusing it? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, because this debate matters. Don't forget to subscribe for more untold histories right here on Legends of Black Excellence.